What is up, Bears fans? Good morning, Chicago. This is the Bears Huddle podcast. I'm Owen James, and this is your UK take on all things Chicago Bears as we hurtle towards the start of training camp and then speed towards those preseason games and then career into the new NFL season. And I'm sure, like me, you cannot wait for September to come as Green Day even sang once, wake me up when September comes. That's what we want. We want September. We want field football back. We are 2 days away from the rookies checking in. We are 5 days away from the full start of Bears training camp at Hallas Hall before, obviously, the preseason and then the season. And it's nice to be going into the season with some high hopes for a change. You know, the hopes that we can actually be a competitor this season, hopes that we can get a playoff berth this season. Obviously, new head coach Ben Johnson brings a massive amount of optimism. The rebuild on the offensive line with Tooney, Jackson, Dolman brings a huge amount of optimism. The stacking of that wide receiver room with Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Olamide Zacchaeus and Luther Burden brings some optimism with Komet and Loveland added in there as receiving threats. The acquisitions on defense add some real promise there. The existing players that are already here, the Jalen Johnsons, the Kevin Byards, the Jaquan Briskers, obviously if Jaquan can stay fit, bring some optimism. And then it's the staff. I mean, the Bears have gone all out this season. They've remembered the key thing, which is that there is no salary cap for the coaching staff. Antoine Randall, JT Barrett, Declan Doyle, Press Taylor, and probably the highest paid coordinator in the league in defensive coordinator, former Saints head coach Dennis Allen. Right, Dennis Allen has a major body of work to get done on this Bears defense. Chicago Bears, famous for the Monsters of Midway. Famous for their defense, famous for their pass rush, famous for putting quarterbacks on their back. Now, one thing that is an area still of concern, I believe, is the edge rusher department within the Bears defensive franchise at this moment in time. And Dennis Allen has some serious work to do. And the front office have some serious decisions to make. So in terms of Dennis Allen, what does he have to do? He has to get these guys firing on all cylinders. And I'm not talking... Okay, yes, I am talking about Montez Sweat and Odeyingbo to get them at their very best. Montez Sweat had a down year last year. Odeyingbo had a down year last year. The hope is that Dennis Allen can rekindle the quality those two guys have got and get them to bring their A game this coming season. Yes, their backups are an issue. We're going to look at that in this video. Because I think this has all kind of been sparked off by the news this morning that Von Miller is signing with the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders clearly going all out this season to reach the Super Bowl after coming so close last season with Jaden Daniels at the helm. They've obviously, gone and acquired Deebo Samuel. They've got Von Miller. They've gone and spent some serious dollar this offseason, really raising the quality of that team. So there's a hope there, I think, for them. But, Jaden Daniels came out the same QB class as Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was the Heisman Trophy winner, was higher rated than Jaden Daniels. Hopefully, obviously, Caleb Williams can outplay Jaden Daniels this season. But the Bears edge rusher department does need addressing, I believe. Now, if we look at the current Bears defensive line depth chart, particularly concentrating on that edge rusher area, you've got Montez Sweat and Dayo Odeyingbo, obviously, as the two starters in principle. But, as Ben Johnson himself said, there is no depth chart. This is just in principle. This is taken from ESPN. Obviously, with Grady Jarrett and Gervon Dexter inside. Gervon Dexter looking like a real leader this season. I mean, personally speaking, you look at that offensive line. You look at that defensive line. You look at that starting defensive line with Sweat, Jarrett, Dexter, and Odeyingbo. That's quality. That's quality. But you look at what comes behind it, and that's when you get concerned. Yes, I mean, looking at the defensive line, I think, we've got Andrew Billings, we've got Shamar Turner. Shamar Turner can play edge, but I think they're seeing him as a defensive lineman, a defensive tackle, rather than an edge. So, behind Jarrett and Dexter, I'm not so worried with Billings and Turner to come. Williams, Pickens, if Pickens can have a better season and sort of pick up his level and get back to where we thought he was at, then, potentially there we're okay. The edge rusher position, though, is a position that we do, I think, have an issue with. At the moment, the backups are Austin Booker and Dominique Robinson. Then you're backed up by undrafted free agent Xavier Carlton, Daniel Hardy, the converted linebacker, who may be required to go and play some linebacker this season, given the fact of what's been going on at minicamp and OTAs. Behind that, you've got Jeremy Cromar, the first-year player. So there's not a lot of experience behind that, and not a lot of high-quality replacements in that depth chart. I mean, if you look at Austin Booker, for example, Austin Booker had 1.5 sacks last season, 4 QB hits, 6 pressures on 283 snaps. So you're expecting a big raise in the number of snaps he gets and a big raise in production this season from Austin Booker. Dominique Robinson is always a player who has been very hit and miss for the Bears. He's a player who, perhaps hasn't lived up to what we hoped. Yes, he was only a 5th round pick, but he has impressed at training camp. This is what head coach Ben Johnson said. Now, Ben Johnson was asked a question where he was asked, who's really impressed you at the mini camps so far? And to be fair to Ben Johnson, when he was asked that question, he actually, asked for time to go away and to look at it and to kind of, judge it. And this is what he came back with. He says, as we know, O-line and D-line play, it's hard to really gauge too much. But he does have a quick first step off the ball, and he lined up on our left tackles quite a bit here over the last few weeks. You could tell that he got the edge on him a few times, Johnson said. So Dominique Robinson being highly rated and highly thought of in minicamp. But as Ben Johnson says, football in shorts, without pads, is very different to the heat of the action, with pads, even in practice, and then going into the game situations. And as I said, Dominique Robinson, he's got everything you would need, I think, to be a top edge rusher. He's 6'5", he's 275 pounds. But in terms of his production, last season, 4 tackles, 3 assisted tackles, no passes defended, no interceptions, no sacks, no tackles for a loss, no stuffs, no forced fumbles, no safeties, none of those things at all. He didn't, do a great deal last season and didn't play a great deal last season. So, it's putting a lot of pressure on someone like Dominique Robinson to come through and show that he is a quality backup to Montez Sweat and Dayo Odeyingbo. So that, of course, raises the question, who is there out there the Bears could look at? What are the options for the Bears if they choose to dig into that existing free agent market? And obviously, you look at that and you look at the situation there. Now, I get that come training camp time, there may be, some movement there. Players may be cut, players may be, booted out. And at the end of the day, you could have some options on the market there. Now, the Bears currently have approximately $15.4 million in salary cap space. And that includes the impact of the Joe Tooney signing, which is set to count about $8 million against our 2025 cap. So, the team cap space is $14,756,058. Remember that $58, very important. Total cap liabilities are $306 million. Top 51 cap liabilities $265 million. So the effective cap space is around $10.5 million, really, with dead money accounting for $4.05 million of our deal, which is actually not that bad compared to some of the teams in the NFL. So who's the options out there? Now, there's a lot of these guys who are out there now are veterans. They are guys who have a vast amount of experience, but may have suffered somewhat of a fall-off in recent seasons. That's why they haven't been retained by their teams. The obvious name that jumps out off the page is Matthew Judon, a player that the Bears tried to trade for last season. He's 33 years old, 275 pounds, recorded 5.5 sacks in 15 of 17 games played for the Atlanta Falcons. Judon would be a leader, would be someone who could come in and bring some experience to that Bears edge rusher room. Could be an option that Ryan Poles would seek to revisit. Add to that, there's Jadeveon Clowney, the guy who's been with the Carolina Panthers. He's 32, but again, a player who did experience somewhat of a drop-off. 2024 with Carolina, he had 46 combined tackles, 22 assisted tackles, 5.5 sacks. So again, similar to what Judon produced last season. Zadarius Smith. Now, Zadarius Smith, is a guy who knows the NFC North exceptionally well. He's a guy who has played, a good amount of football with all of our NFC North opposition, the Packers and the Vikings in particular. Now, it could be that Zadarius Smith would be someone that may look to come to the Bears. Again, he's 32 years old. He's 6'4", 270 pounds. He's currently with the Lions. So again, he would tick off the list, wouldn't he? Lions, Vikings, Packers, go to the Bears. You've done the whole NFC North tour, mate. Last season, 22 tackles, 13 assisted tackles, 1 pass defended, and 9 sacks. So a decent production from Zadarius Smith last season. But whether he become a Bear is another question. Preston Smith is another guy who is on the free agent block at this moment in time. He was with the Steelers last season, recorded 4.5 sacks in his time with the Steelers as part of that rotation with TJ Watt and Highsmith. Is it Alex Highsmith or Alonzo Highsmith? Alex Highsmith, that's the guy's name. Carl Lawson is another guy who's also on the list at this moment in time. Another potential free agent as well. Was with the Cowboys last season. 5 sacks, 7 tackles, 8 assisted tackles, 1 forced fumble. So again, a reasonable amount of sacks, a reasonable amount of production, but again, didn't play a great deal. Former Bears, Travis Gypsum is another player. DeMarcus Walker is another player who is currently on the free agent chopping block as well. So these are former Bears. So could these be people that we want to bring back and want to revisit with the Bears? I mean, I don't know. That is something we've got to look at. DeMarcus Walker obviously was with us last season, but then obviously was allowed to leave as a free agent, wasn't retained. So look, these are the options. Judon, Clowney, Zarius Smith, Preston Smith, Carl Lawson, Gibson, Walker. These are the options. I mean, looking at that list as it stands on the 17th of July, I believe that, if you're looking to bring in experience, if you're looking at win now, which is what the Bears appear to be doing, is looking at win now culture, then you're looking at Judon, you're looking at Clowney, you're looking at Za'Darius Smith as being your best options. Probably Za'Darius Smith and Matthew Judon being the top 2 options out of that. But it's whether or not the Bears want to go down that route or not. Guys, I'd love to get your thoughts. Would you want to see us go for someone like a Matthew Judon or Za'Darius Smith? Or do you think we should give Dominique Robinson, Javier Carlton and Austin Booker the chance to show that they are the guys to back up Montez Sweat and Dayo Odeyingbo? And obviously the worry, I suppose, is that if Odeyingbo and Montez Sweat cannot get back to the form that made us give Sweat a huge contract and take a risk on Odeyingbo, what do we do then? Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. If you've enjoyed the content, please obviously smash a like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bear down.